So first, what happens if a candidate dies during the primaries between now and June? If they don't, what happens gets determined in the second stage, the convention. Stage 3, what happens if the nominee dies before Election Day? Okay, next, what happens if Trump or Biden dies after winning the November election? Stage 4 is between Election Day and when the Electoral College votes. And finally, Stage 5. Things get a lot simpler if the president-elect dies after the Electoral College votes, but before the inauguration.
What does the man mean?
So the two leading candidates for president, both parties are older than 75.
Yeah, so what would happen if they died mid-campaign or health complications associated with their age forced them to drop out? Our National Verify team, Casey Decker, breaks down 5 possible scenarios.
The leading candidates in the 2024 presidential election are old. President Biden is 81, former President Trump 77. Male life expectancy in America is less than 74, and polls show age is a major concern for voters. We've received multiple questions from viewers wondering what would happen if one of the candidates dies or drops out of the race. The answer depends on a lot of factors: where we are in the election cycle, state laws, party rules, and the Constitution. We'll walk you through all the scenarios using these sources. Let's break it down into 5 stages: during the primaries, at the conventions, after the conventions but before Election Day, after Election Day but before the Electoral College votes, and after the Electoral College votes until Inauguration Day. So first, what happens if a candidate dies during the primaries between now and June? Depending on the state, if the primary hasn't happened yet, they'll probably still appear on your ballot and could still win delegates. Newcomers could jump in the race via a write-in campaign, if the state allows it. And if you already voted, the delegates won by the now deceased candidate in your state could potentially become free agents, or in rare cases be reallocated to other candidates. That depends on state and national party rules. So if Trump or Biden dies during the primaries, it's possible another candidate could then secure the nomination, but not likely. If they don't, what happens gets determined in the second stage, the convention. The nominee is ultimately decided by convention delegates, and who they vote for is assigned based on the results of their state's primaries. But there are 2 scenarios in which delegates could be allowed to vote for whoever they want. The first is if no candidate has a majority after the initial vote, in which case all the delegates become free agents. The second is if their assigned candidate has died. In this situation, the parties would likely enact rules to free up those delegates. Living candidates would still keep their delegates. And when a delegate is up for grabs, anyone can vie for their vote, even if they didn't run in the primaries. The process, called a brokered convention, continues until someone gets a majority and becomes the nominee. Stage 3. What happens if the nominee dies before Election Day? This answer is pretty clear. Both parties have a rule saying that their national committee, a group of a few hundred state and national party leaders, would hold a vote and pick the replacement. Okay, next, what happens if Trump or Biden dies after winning the November election? Stage 4 is between Election Day and when the Electoral College votes. This involves people, called electors, who are picked by their party, filing the official votes for the candidate who won the state. But in the event that candidate dies during this month-long window, it's an open legal question about who they're supposed to vote for. So state legislatures would likely have to pass new laws clarifying what electors are allowed to do. And finally, stage 5. Things get a lot simpler if the president-elect dies after the Electoral College votes, but before the inauguration. In this case, the 20th Amendment to the Constitution is invoked. It states that if the president-elect dies before taking office, the vice president-elect will be sworn in instead. Afterwards, the new president would nominate a new VP, who would have to be confirmed by the Senate. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.